welcome to Gamecock Pod Live.
For the next 3 to 4 years, I'll be committed to the University of Gamecock.
This is Rodgers again to the 25, 20, 15, 10. Rodgers scores! Jackie Bradley Jr. delivers for the Gamecocks. Lost it up, looking for Kelly. Touchdown! Can you believe it?
And South Carolina is sending shockwaves through the SEC.
Frederick plays it in at the buzzer. That's a win! Unbelievable! I don't believe it!
And now, live from Studio 54 of the Gamecock Pod Studios, here's the Cockfather himself, Keith Alsep.
All right, everybody, welcome into Gamecock Pod Live for July the 12th. This is Keith Alsep, and I am excited to be back off vacation. Dante Reno is standing by, and so let's just go ahead and jump right in with Dante. We will get to our Nana's Porch news, notes, and headlines after the interview, but go ahead and jump in the chat box and get your questions in for Dante Reno. So without further ado, let's bring in Elite 11 quarterback and 2024 South Carolina quarterback commitment, Dante Reno. Dante, welcome in. How you doing, my friend?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Hey, it's awesome. Thanks for joining us once again. And so, especially since you're getting ready to head out for vacation with the family, I just got back from mine last week. So what does the Reno family vacation look like? Will there be a family truckster involved, and will you be headed to Wally World?
No, so we go to Aruba every year. July is like one of the only months my dad gets off. He's a coach, so we go to Aruba for a couple weeks. Just spend some great time with the family. Kind of get away from everything for a little bit, so it'll be fun.
Awesome. Well, I hope you have a great vacation, and certainly that's a great locale. So, just wanted to check in with you. And so, how's your summer going? Obviously, it's been very eventful since the last time we had you on the show. You've changed schools. You went to the Elite 11. You made your official visit to South Carolina. I want to get into all of that. But just how are things going? How's the summer going for you?
Yeah, summer's been great. Obviously, it's my last summer before heading to Columbia and enrolling in January. That was a big thing, and the big thing I wanted to do was being able to enroll early there and get there in January. So switching schools and going to Cheshire Academy, they allowed us to enroll early. They allowed me to enroll early in January and get a high school diploma and all that stuff. So that was a big reason why we changed. Yeah, summer's been great. It's been very eventful, and obviously we work out from 9 to 11:30 every day, and then we throw at night with some of our players or my quarterback coach. 4 to 5 days a week. So we do all that stuff. So it's been really fun. Summer's a good time just to spend some time with the family. Obviously my dad's team, they're all in town too. So spend some time around those guys and just really hang out and work out and stuff.
All right. Well, good stuff. So you went to California for the Elite 11. What was that experience like?
Yeah, it was awesome. Obviously it was a dream come true being able to go out there and compete, being able to go out there and be with all the other top 11 guys, the top 20 guys in the country. It was a really cool experience, and I can't thank those guys at Elite 11 enough for inviting me and believing in me and my talents. And obviously putting on for all the Carolina fans and showing all them what I can do. It was really cool. It was really great for me and my family to go out there.
All right, so walk us through what that experience is like. Like, like kind of each day, what's going on, while you're out there. Obviously, there's they do the route tree stuff. They do the quick game stuff. They do the 7-on-7. What was like each day like during that time out there?
Yeah, so prior to getting invited, 2 weeks before, we all got sent a book of plays, and we all got sent a playbook that we had to study for the time being there. So up until we got there, we all memorized those plays. Sometimes we went over the plays, sometimes we didn't. But for instance, like the first day we got there, it was a big media day. So there's a bunch of media outlets there, and we all got interviewed, and we all did a bunch of different interviews and stuff like that. And then on the first day we threw at night, we threw from 7 to 9 something, I believe. And it was the rail shot challenge day. So we spent like an hour or something doing drills with a bunch of the top quarterback coaches in the country that were there. We did all the quarterback drills, stuff like that. Then at night, we did the rail shot challenge, which is the ball. I'm sure everybody knows that the ball that Tua threw in the national championship to beat Georgia in the back of the end zone. So that's where they got that throw from. But they've been doing that throw for a long time. So that was the first day. Second day was the day. We had some meetings before the second day. Coach Chris Peterson, the legendary coach at Washington, who's also at Boise State, he was there giving us a bunch of leadership tips and stuff like that. And then we also had 3 quarterback counselors. We had 4 quarterback counselors. Caleb Williams was there. Jalen Daniels, who's a quarterback at LSU. Talia Tagovailoa, who's a quarterback at Maryland, and then Michael Penix, who's a quarterback at Washington. So we had a meeting with them for a little bit, asked them a bunch of questions. Being around those guys was really cool. And then at night we had the pro day. So it was kind of like any pro day that you do at like a NFL or your college pro day. So we did all that scripted throws. Then the third day we had a bunch of meetings. We got around each other. It was really cool hanging out with each other the whole time. But the third day was like the 7-on-7 day. That's when we had the playbook from before that I was talking about. So we had to memorize those plays and went through a playbook. You got about 4 drives. Everybody got 4 drives. So you had to make the most of your drives and stuff like that. So it was a really cool experience.
All right. So watching all of the guys out there, other than yourself, who was your favorite guy to watch? And then just overall, how did you think you stacked up, being out there with the guys that are considered the top quarterbacks in the country for this coming class?
Yeah, it was obviously really cool being around all the top guys in the country, seeing them throw, and obviously there's a bunch of good arms and a bunch of good kids. But obviously I think seeing Caleb Williams throw, who was a quarterback at USC, it was really cool seeing him throw and how live his arm was. Just being around him too, it was a really cool experience. But yeah, I mean obviously I sack well against those guys and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we were all just building relationships, going out there and throwing, going out there to compete. So it was really fun.
Caleb Williams, a guy Shane Beamer recruited at Oklahoma. So good stuff there. All right, so talk to us about maybe this summer, this off season, since your junior year, the things that maybe you thought were your strengths, and then maybe one or two of the things that you've really worked on to improve. And then since being out at the Elite 11, did that change your mindset or your program as far as, what you want to become as a senior before you enroll at South Carolina?
Yeah, I think my goals in the offseason, my goals always every single year is to win a championship, and doing whatever I can to do that and prepare myself and my teammates the same way that we have been. Just doing everything I can to be the best teammate, be the best player, and be the best quarterback I can possibly be. So it's checking all those boxes, doing all those things that I can possibly do. Then hopefully at the end of the year, we win a 3rd championship. That'll be really cool. It'll be really fun.
All right. So how about individual goals as far as, maybe there's a couple of routes you'd like to throw better, or just some of the things individually for you that's been on your checklist?
Yeah, I think obviously a lot of people go into the off season with a bunch of goals and stuff like that, but you can only prepare as well as you can with the time you have. So obviously the basics, getting fat, bigger, faster, stronger, more accurate, just all that stuff. And I work out with my quarterback coach. We do it 3 times a week. So whatever he has, and I've been throwing a lot with Brian Hoyer as well. So it's learning a lot of stuff from him, footwork, base drills, bag drills, all that stuff. So it's been a really good offseason.
All right. So what is your current height and weight?
Yeah, so I'm 6'2" and 200 pounds.
All right. All right. So obviously, Dante, you are not a recent commitment to South Carolina. You called Coach Beamer and committed on June the 15th of last year, a day I remember well because I just taken a foul tip to my left radius and was sitting in the emergency room at the hospital. And all of a sudden that welcome home came through, and then there was, I think, a Pelican meme or something that was maybe from your last team. So, man, you've been committed for a long time now, almost 13 months. What has that been like? Has it been a relief to not have to worry about recruiting? And then are there still schools that are coming after you and trying to get you to change your mind?
Yeah, obviously I wouldn't say it was a relief. It was the best decision I've ever made, committing to Coach Beamer in South Carolina. Obviously it was the best school, the best opportunity for me to go in and play and go in and compete. And obviously it's the best head coach in the country. So having all those boxes checked, and obviously my dad and my mom and brother and sister trusting in the staff. And a big thing for me was my dad, because he's a head coach and he knows the game and he knows what goes on in college football. So having him being able to trust Coach Beamer out of every head coach. And I think I ended up with 35 Division I offers after I finished the recruitment and stuff like that. So being able for him to like Coach Beamer, love Coach Beamer, same way that I do, it was huge. But it's been awesome being able to recruit this class, and we're going to have a huge July and we're going to have a huge August with a bunch of commitments coming soon. So it's going to be very fun.
All right. So let's hold that thought for a minute. We'll definitely get around to that a little bit. And so, I think you came down some in the spring to watch spring practice, to be around Dowell Loggins. You've been on campus at least a couple of times this summer. Just what do you like about Dowell Loggins when the change was made? How quickly did that relationship develop? And then, what is it, do you think it's going to be like to be coached by a guy that coached quarterbacks in the National Football League for 15 years?
Yeah, it's going to be huge. Just the short time that we've had, especially like when he got hired. I was one of the first people he called, and we got on the phone. We talked for 45 minutes that night. And that night I texted Coach Beamer, and I was like, nothing's going to change for me. I was like, this is the perfect guy I want to be coached by, and I'm still committed and stuff like that. So that was all cool to really, really happen so fast. But he's a really good coach. He's a really good person. Since I've known him, he's been awesome for me, and I've learned a lot from him. Obviously, like you said, he's been in the NFL for 17 years. That's the highest you can get in football in the world. So having that knowledge, being able to learn from him, being able to be coached by him is going to be awesome. I'm just ready to go work and go compete, show him what I can do. But at the end of the day, it's just being able to learn and take what I can from him and apply to my game.
All right. So without giving away state secrets, okay, how do you think South Carolina's offense is going to change? And from being around him and being around the players, what's kind of some of the comments that they've had, or just what you've observed about, kind of that imprint that Dowell Loggins wants to put on this offense this year? Obviously returning a guy like Spencer Rattler, like Juice Wells, bringing in, two NFL tight ends in Trey Knox and Joshua Simon, Xavier Legette. Obviously, there's this guy named Harbor. I think he's pretty fast. And there's some other guys as well. Juju McDowell, Amarian Brown, DeKirian Joyner. I mean, this offense is really loaded with playmakers. And so what are kind of some of the just maybe general concepts or things that you've observed that you like about maybe some of the changes or some of the, base plays in this offense?
Yeah, I think obviously from observing practice and being in meetings, stuff like that, he's comfortable. He looks a lot comfortable. He's throwing, obviously, I don't want to give away everything that they're going to do and stuff like that, but they're going to score a bunch of points. I think that's their emphasis, and that's what's going to be on this year is just scoring a bunch of points, getting the ball inside the red zone, just coming away with points at the end of the day, because that's all Coach Loggins talks about in his meetings and stuff like that. So not turning the ball over as well as much, and keeping the ball in our hands, controlling the clock, just simple stuff like that that'll help win you games at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. So I didn't really know Dowell Loggins' background. I mean, I did start hearing his name pretty early last year, but for me, coaching as an old basketball coach, it's when you have players, you get the ball to your players and you just try to stay out of the way and not screw it up by doing too much. I thought at times last year, South Carolina tried to do too much. And when players can't play free and they're thinking too much, you're just not going to be as productive. But for me, Dowell Loggins at the press conference, when he talked about getting the ball to your playmakers in space and how college football is different than the NFL. The hash marks are different. There is a wide side of the field. And it's not your job. You don't have 70 hours a week. You really have 15 hours a week. And from what I've heard, a lot of the plays are, 1 or 2 word plays, which I kind of like that a lot more than, the John Gruden quarterback camp where he's running down, 20 word plays. And so as a quarterback, how does that make you feel, coming into next season? Does that help the learning curve for a guy coming in?
Yeah, I think it does. Obviously, when you get there, being able to pick up the offense, run the offense a lot faster. But I think it just makes you play more free, makes you make decisions quicker. Like you said, get the ball to playmakers. And at the end of the day, it's those guys are going to go out and score the touchdowns. Those guys are going to go out and make plays. So being able to get the guys like Nick Harbor or Juice Wells, stuff like that, I think it's a big emphasis for Coach Loggins, the offense.
All right, so let's shift gears a little bit to recruiting, to your class, the class of 24. And so fair or unfair, generally the quarterback is considered the de facto, lead recruiter for that class. And so for you, how easy or how difficult was that for you to kind of get yourself into that mode of saying, hey, I want to build a great class around me? How easy or how difficult was that? And how long did it take you to really embrace that?
Yeah, I think it was a smooth transition because at the prep schools that I've been at, Loomis, the last 2 years, and then Cheshire, now we're allowed to recruit kids. We're allowed to recruit kids from all around the country. So obviously being able to do that in high school when I committed made the transition a lot easier. And then obviously using the tactics that my dad, I've seen him use in recruiting. And I've seen him recruit the way he's recruited. They've won 3 out of the last 5 championships, Ivy League championships in their league. So obviously he's recruiting pretty well. So obviously using all those tactics and just being able to be upfront with guys, keep it real, and then having guys that are like-minded to myself and what Coach Beamer wants. That's the way that our class has formed. That's the way that I wouldn't say some kids are shying away from our class, but some kids are realizing how real our class is and how close our class is. Some kids, they want more the NIL route, and there's nothing that we can do about that. But at the end of the day, we want some football players. We're going to get the great players that we can get. We're going to develop them, and we have like a top 13 class right now in the country. We only have 13 commits. Most of the classes have like 20 and 25. So by the time we hit 20, we'll be top 5 class in the country. But at the end of the day, it's getting a bunch of kids that are like-minded. A bunch of kids that are going to go fight and play for Carolina. So it'll be really fun.
All right, so obviously your class did get off to a strong start. I think as a quarterback, there's a lot to like, really, from the last 2 classes. I mean, when you look at the guys that are going to protect you, Big Tree, Babalade, Marquis Anderson, Jatavius Shivers, Trevon Ball. Then you probably have the top 2 offensive tackles in the country in this class. I mean, there are a lot of college staffs that would say, hey, Josiah Thompson and Cam Pringle, 1, 2. Some maybe have Pringle higher. Some have Thompson higher. Personally, I would have Thompson ranked a little bit higher because he's leaner. He's a little longer, probably a little more athletic. And you got Blake Frank. So, just off the top, the guys that are going to protect you, you got to feel good about those guys.
Yeah, I feel great. And those are the Josiah, Blake, Cam, Mazio. Those are all the in-state guys that we were trying to get. And the first day after I committed, those are the 3 guys that I tweeted about. Those are the 3 guys that we were trying to get, and 4 guys we were trying to get. So being able to keep the best players in the state and stay and play for South Carolina, it was huge. And just obviously, like you said, having Blake, Josiah, and Cam all committed. Those 3 guys, that every time I see them, they get bigger somehow, they get taller somehow. And I'm just like staring up at them all the time. But we're all really close. Those are like my best friends. So this class, we're all really close. We're all really close-knit class. But yeah, those 3 guys it's like a quarterback's dream.
All right, so bringing some of these other guys on the into the class with you, who are maybe some of the other guys that have been very instrumental in taking a lead and trying to help build this class with you?
Yeah, I think all the committed guys. We have a committed group chat, and we're all texting uncommitted guys. We're all getting on them. But I think a lot of the guys have been committed for a little bit, like Cam, obviously. Wendell's been really good. Kelvin, who else? Josiah, Blake, Mazio. All those guys are recruiting. Big Mike. So it's been great for all of us and all of them to help me recruit and help them recruit. And we just go back and forth with each other, because at the end of the day, the players that want to go play, they want to play with good people. They want to go where they're wanted. So if they could hear it from us as the committed guys, that we want them to come play with us. It's just another factor that's going to help them.
All right, so obviously Mazio Bennett, yeah, that was a really big deal, right? Justin Stepp recruits him hard. He winds up committing to Tennessee. Then South Carolina is able to flip him. He's come on. He's been a leader in this class. And so I know you've had a chance to throw with him, but there's one guy that his film just really jumps out at me, and that is tight end Michael Smith. I mean, to me, this guy's a freak. I mean, 6'4", 6'5", maybe he's 225, 230. But Dante, you know probably better than me, he runs like a wide receiver. Have you had the chance to throw with him? And just, if you have, what is that like?
Yeah, I haven't thrown with Mike yet. Obviously I've thrown Mazio, and he's a really good player, and he's so smooth in and out of his breaks. He goes, gets the ball, he attacks the ball, and he's obviously a big threat on the perimeter too, because he's going to go up and whack you. He's going to block you. That's a big emphasis in his film and his tape. It's like a bunch of clips of him blocking and driving guys either into the sideline or on the ground. But yeah, Big Mike, he's awesome. Obviously watching his tape and just being around him for as much as I can. He's a really good person. And obviously the film speaks for itself, and he's a really good player as well. He can go up and get the ball as well. And he doesn't go block you, stuff like that. So yeah, I think our class is coming together really well.
All right, so if you had to compare Mazio Bennett to maybe a guy that you played with or a guy that is on South Carolina's team right now, I mean, look, we don't need him to be this guy. We just need him to be Mazio Bennett, right? And so, but is there a guy you kind of see a style, a similarity, a skill set that, South Carolina fans would say, oh, wow, yeah, that makes sense?
Yeah, I think he's kind of a combination of a bunch of receivers. Obviously, I can't name any guys, but obviously he has really good hands. He's fast. He cuts well, and out of his breaks, he's a top competitor. So no matter what we're doing, he's always competing. Whether it's we're playing cornhole at a cookout, or throwing routes. If he drops the ball, he's doing 10 push-ups. If I make a bad pass, I'm doing 10 push-ups. So whatever we're doing, we're always competing. I think he's gonna be a really good player. Obviously, he's a really good person off the field too. I think that just adds to his character and how he was raised by his awesome family too. So he's obviously going to do a lot of great things for Carolina.
All right, good stuff. So let's go to that official visit weekend, the weekend of June 23rd. So obviously you've been to South Carolina a lot. I mean, a lot of times. How different was the official visit experience from just coming down and hanging out, going to cookouts, being in the indoor, working out with guys, just hanging out? How different was that experience? Did you learn anything new, or was it just a lot of things that you've already seen because you've just been there so many times?
Yeah, I think the cool thing about the staff, and I think one of the things that the staff does really well is they're the same person day in and day out. And every single time I've been down there, every single time I talk to them on the phone, whether it's via FaceTime, call, or something like that, text, they're all the same. They don't change. So obviously being down there for the OV, the only thing that was different for me was it was all paid for. Obviously they pay for everything. So that was probably the biggest difference. But yeah, Coach Beamer, his big emphasis on the whole scheme of his program is just love, and they love you every single time you come down there. They're the same person day in and day out. So having that and the staff, and they're not going to change whether it's you're on your official visit or unofficial visit, or you're there for like 5 hours, doesn't really matter. They're going to stay the same.
All right. So obviously there were some highly touted, uncommitted guys that were there for that visit. I'm not going to put you on the spot today, but obviously there is work to be done for this class. And so not that you got to say, well, we're getting this guy or we're getting that guy, but just who are maybe some of the guys that you and some of the other guys are, really working to try to get into this class to join you at South Carolina?
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of guys, obviously, on our official visit. Daniel Hill and Jonathan Paler and Dylan Stewart are the three guys that are left. I was on FaceTime with big Dylan Stewart last night for like 2.5 hours. We were just chatting. So obviously getting him would be huge. I think we're in a really good spot to get him. It's just a matter of when he wants to make a decision and when he wants to do all that stuff. I know he's going to be back down for the cookout and stuff like that. Then as well as Daniel Hill and Jonathan, we're in a really good spot with both those guys too. And then I think there's a couple other guys. There's a couple other corners, defensive backs like Malcolm Zingler. He's from North Carolina. He's also a really good player. And Jalula Solomon, who's also another really good player. So I was on talking to them earlier this week. I think we have a really good spot with all those guys. I think once that they finally make their decisions and stuff like that, it's gonna shock a lot of people with some of them. But we're in a good spot, I would say.
All right. Well, those were the guys that I had down. And so there's one other guy, though. Cam Michael McHale. He's from Statesboro, Georgia. Big-time athlete. South Carolina's been recruiting him as a defensive back, but now, with potentially Keelan Adams deciding to stay home at Virginia Tech, could kind of change the thinking because this guy's got great wide receiver film as well?
Yeah, I think obviously we'd have to see what Keelan does tomorrow, but yeah, I think they'd have to not reevaluate, but go see what they want, see if they want to take another receiver or athlete or something like that. But yeah, obviously he's another great player too, so that'd be really good too.
All right, so I know you're going to be on vacation, so I don't know that you're going to be at the cookout. But certainly Jalewis Solomon and Dylan Stewart coming back for that. To me, I have to think that is very beneficial for South Carolina.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, those two guys come back. And I think a couple other guys might show their heads and pop down too. But those two guys being able to come back, especially before they make the decision, is also huge.
And I think that day, Jonathan Paylor is expected to make his decision.
Yep.
And
yeah.
I think that one's looking pretty good for the good guys.
It is. It is looking really good for us.
I like him a lot. All right, so Dante, let's wrap this thing up. And so let's talk about some non-football stuff, and let's get to know you away from football. So when you're not involved in football, when you're not in a playbook, when you're not with your quarterback coach, when you're not with your dad who's a Division I head coach, what's your favorite thing to do when you just have some downtime?
Yeah, so I love to golf. Me and my brother and sister, we go golfing all the time. And then we live on a lake too. So obviously heading out on the lake and going to chill out on a boat, whether it's fishing, we're going tubing or something like that. Just keeping it simple, getting away from football for a little bit.
All right, so a little rapid fire to end here. So favorite color?
Blue.
Favorite food?
My mom's chicken parm.
If you were shipwrecked on a desert island, who would be the most interesting person you could think of that you would want on that island with you?
Most interesting person. That's a great question. I'd probably say I'd bring Tom Brady. I wouldn't say he'd be interesting, but I would be cool to talk to him.
He's a pretty interesting guy.
Yeah.
All right, beach or mountains?
Beach, for sure.
Favorite movie?
Probably either the Black Panther or The Sandlot. I love that movie too.
All right. Favorite fast food joint in Columbia?
Ooh, I think Bojangles. Bojangles is pretty good, I'd say. Or Five Guys. Five Guys is also pretty good too.
Five Guys is everywhere.
Yeah.
Bojangles, very cool. All right. Then the last question, because I missed it at the top of the page.
Yep.
Your first pass as a Gamecock, if you could pick one player you'd want to throw it to, who would it be?
First, I'd like to say whoever's open, but probably Mazio because he's obviously the first person that jumped in shit with me. So definitely Mazio would be a touchdown pass.
All right, Dante, I can't thank you enough for taking the time today. Enjoy your vacation. Hopefully we can catch up with you at your new school once the season gets going before you enroll. Best of luck, safe travels, have a great rest of the summer and a successful season, and we'll look forward to catching up with you down the road.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. All right, that was Gamecock quarterback commitment Dante Reno. So we are going to pay some bills, and if I can find it, there it is. I'll be back right after this.
If you enjoy listening and watching the Free Wednesday show, now live streaming on YouTube, and would love more Gamecock Pod daily, join our growing Gamecock family by becoming a monthly or annual subscriber. You'll be able to listen to the show every day of the week and listen to guests like J.C. Sherbert, Hale McGranahan, and John Whittle from thebigspur.com, Colin Taylor and Mike Yuva from Gamecock Central, Emily Adams from the Greenville News, Ben Portnoy, Michael Lanana, and Jeremiah Holloway from GoGamecocks.com, Michael W. Bratton, the host of That SEC podcast, and many, many more. As a VIP subscriber, you can join or listen to the weekly live Zoom call with up to 100 of your favorite Gamecocks and friends. After the show is an unrecorded overtime segment where the real scoop gets dropped and discussed. It's like going down to your local pub or sports bar and having a conversation with your Gamecock friends about last week's football game, men's and women's basketball games, and Gamecock baseball. And of course, there's always recruiting to discuss. In addition to the weekly Zoom call, VIP subscribers get the most popular podcast, The Morning After, which is released every Sunday morning during football season, and more VIP perks are in the works. Follow Keith on Twitter at KAllset, or follow the show on Twitter at GamecockPod. Go to the top of the homepage and follow the link. If all else fails, go to patreon.com/GamecockPodDaily. Join now and get up to 3 months free off an annual VIP subscription. You will love it, guaranteed. Now, back to Gamecock Pod Live.
All right, welcome back in to Gamecock Pod Live. What a fantastic interview with Dante Reno. The show is also brought to you today by 5 Diamond Botanicals. 5 Diamond Botanicals is your go-to for all CBD products. This company was founded by a healthcare professional with over 27 years of experience, founded on the principle of integrity and transparency. All of these products are grown and manufactured right here in the good old USA. They have a wide variety of products for the ladies of the house. They have a great bath bomb. They have the body lotion. For me, it is the Nano Roll-On for my knees. Also, they have the Nano Salve, which has been really good for me lately because I have a really bad right groin, which I ripped several years ago. And so when I come off the Diamond and I take a shower, immediately after that, I put on a CBD salve. It, your pores are open, it goes in, it really helps with the pain, it helps loosen it up. And I just can't say enough good things. And there are a number of patrons for Gamecock Pod Daily and Gamecock Pod Live that have purchased these products, and they all give them a 5-star review. So go to 5 Diamond Botanicals. That's FIVE. Spell it out. 5 DiamondBotanicals.com. All right. Today's news, notes, and headlines brought to you by Nana's Porch. Nana's Porch, a full-service catering company servicing the greater Charlotte, North Carolina area. They've got all your catering needs covered, whether it's a banquet, a corporate event, a wedding, a backyard bash with the whole hog barbecue. Nana's Porch has got you covered. Maybe you want to bring out a food trailer for an end of season celebration or a church group. Nana's Porch voted top 3 by a local newspaper poll, and their pimento cheese voted number 1 by the North Carolina Specialty Foods Association in the meat and cheese category. I encourage all of you to support this Gamecock owned and operated business. Go to nanasporch.com. That's NANASPORCH.com nasporch.com. Get in touch with my good friend Chris Payne. While I was on my vacation, had a great opportunity to catch up with him, spend some time, have some of that delicious pimento cheese and an ice cold beer, and just chew the fat. And it was a great, great time. nanasporch.com. Check them out. All right, so we're going to talk football recruiting. First, I want to give you kind of a health update. There was no pod yesterday. So when I got back off vacation, I had not been on a computer for 2 weeks. Out on my big 32-inch monitor over here to the right, which you can't see, and started scrolling, and it just brought on a massive vertigo attack. And I was flat on my face, probably from, I don't know, for about 12 hours. The medicine didn't help. It is one of the worst feelings I've had in a long, long time. So I got over that, and then I started doing this Cal Ripken baseball tournament. And, it's 95 degrees at 8 a.m. It's 106 degrees yesterday. I'm behind the plate. And heat exacerbates vertigo. And so I've really been going through a tough time trying to get through it. It's really like when I had my first onset. I'm having to take medicine all the time. Kind of makes you groggy, a little lethargic. I'm trying to push through for you guys, trying to push through to help my chapter. And so we'll definitely have our Garnet and Black Town Hall tonight, which my good friend Jamie Bradford described there on our advertisement. Tonight's Garnet and Black Town Hall will be open to all patrons. You don't have to be just a VIP, but we are going to have our town hall. It is probably the most popular podcast outside of the morning after during college football season when I break down the games. It's like going down to your favorite pub or having a bunch of guys over to your house and just sitting around out in the backyard and popping the top on an adult beverage. Talking about the Gamecocks. It's very interactive. Guys get to, blow off some steam. They get to talk about how much they love the Gamecocks, what they like about the Gamecocks. We're going to be talking a lot about the upcoming season. I think on Monday's podcast, I gave you my SEC quarterback rankings, and I do not have Spencer Rattler ranked number 9, as my good friend Michael W. Bratton does. I would have thought just the fact that Spencer Rattler threw for 6 touchdowns and 438 yards in an absolute boat racing of Tennessee last year, 63-38. And let's not forget that the Gamecocks scored after Tennessee cut the lead. What was it, 28-17? I can't remember. But anyway, Tennessee scored right before the half. Then they scored early in the third quarter to cut it to 3 points. South Carolina scored 28 unanswered after that to just run away and boat race them. And then, of course, last night you got to see the Clemson game, which, quite frankly, you saw the best of Spencer Rattler and the worst of Spencer Rattler. And have to think Dowell Loggins, I think the biggest key for Rattler, we know the arm talent is there. The dude is capable of making any throw. But I think he's got to be more cognizant when he runs out of the pocket to get the first down. You can't slide short of the line to gain and get in a 4th and 2 situation. You can't just throw a ball into a window that you anticipate being opening when it's not open, like they did against Clemson when they motioned the running back out of the backfield. Nate Adkins, if Rattler would have waited 1 count longer, he would have been wide open in the middle of the field. Just like 2nd and goal at the 1-yard line when Juju McDowell doesn't get in. You just can't throw that interception. You can't. You can't do that. And so I'm anticipating a much better Spencer Rattler this year, a much more comfortable Spencer Rattler, and a Spencer Rattler that's going to be able to play free and is not going to be overthinking. All right, so in recruiting, and so I'm going to stand on my soapbox here. All right, the Gamecocks are getting ready to lose some guys. Okay, they're getting ready to lose the first legitimate welcome home of the Shane Beamer era in Keelan Adams, barring a change of events. All right, on that Monday after, I believe it was the June 9th recruiting weekend, there were 3 welcome homes. Keelan Adams was the 3rd welcome home. He visited Alabama. That didn't really move the needle. He visited Virginia Tech. They put together an unbelievable NIL package. South Carolina does not have the resources to even come close right now. Liam Andrews, big defensive lineman from the Northeast, after he visited Father's Day weekend, almost everybody in that inside the building at South Carolina thought this guy is going to be a Gamecock. Now he's not. He's probably announcing this week for Penn State because they have a better NIL package. Granted, you're going to have to make decisions when it comes to NIL. It's just like free agency in the NBA or the NFL or Major League Baseball. You have to make hard decisions. But South Carolina, I don't think they have a single D-line commitment for this class. And it's not because Jimmy Lindsey left and went to LSU and Travian Robertson came in and was behind. South Carolina, I can tell you last year, Jimmy Lindsey's list was full of guys that he thought he was going to get, like Victor Burley, like Jordan Hall, like Stephen Green, like Keith Sampson from North Carolina. He thought he was getting all of them guys. He didn't get a single one. He got Xavier Hardy, who had to go to JUCO, and you got Xavier McLeod, who's going to play this year. Okay, South Carolina decided to go big boy recruiting, Jordan Thomas. Well, Georgia, back-to-back national championships, a bunch of defensive linemen that have been first-round draft picks, including Travon Walker, who's the number 1 overall pick in the draft. You lost that battle. You know, you made a nice early evaluation on Quintavious Johnson. Georgia came in, no cigar. Okay. You had the defensive lineman from Lawrenceville, Georgia, that you felt really good about, Justin Green. Georgia decided to make a move on him. Boom, that was another guy you lost. Nnamdi Abloko, the big nose guard, 6'4", 6'5", 335 out of Garner, North Carolina. You thought you're in great shape with him, but Georgia had this guy named Jordan Davis. And then they had the top defensive lineman in the draft last year. And he's a big nose guard that they can show exactly the plan for developing him. He picked Georgia. Now Liam Andrews, a guy that a lot of people were projecting as an interior offensive lineman. I always thought he was a defensive lineman. Travian Robertson did a great job with him. He gave a lot of positive indications. He wanted to play in the SEC. Penn State has put together a superior NIL package. So you're losing him. Dylan Stewart, I think South Carolina has rightly prioritized. As Dante Reno, I feel really good about that one, but that's another big boy recruiting battle. And it's not going to be over just because if Dylan Stewart decides to announce in July, which I think may not be the most prudent. Maybe he needs to go the distance because then you don't have everybody throwing South Carolina under the bus. NIL, whether it's Garnet Trust or Carolina Rise, NIL is the present and the future of college athletics. Like it, hate it, deny it. It's a fact. Okay? Stocking the collectives is more important than giving to the Gamecock Club. Stocking the collectives is more important than donating to buildings. South Carolina has the buildings. They got all the buildings they need right now. They got all the facilities they need. Okay, NIL is the most important thing. Now, I'm not saying you got to be Texas A&M or Tennessee or Florida and, offer a quarterback from California $13 million to come play for you. You don't. That's not realistic at South Carolina. Okay, it's just not. Other schools are going to have advantages, but at the same time, let's look at Texas A&M. $23 million for one recruiting class. They've had like 18 guys transfer since then. A lot of the guys that even came in that recruiting class transferred. Hell, let's look at Quinn Ewers at Texas. He left after his junior year because he couldn't make NIL money in high school. He went to Ohio State thinking he was going to be set for life. At least those guys attached performance and game stipulations in his NIL agreement. Hey, you have to play in this many games to get this much money. You have to throw for this many touchdowns. You have to start this many games. You have to do, you have all these benchmarks or incentives that you have to make or meet those benchmarks to get paid. I think all he got was a pickup truck, and now he's at Texas. I have heard he's cut the mullet and shaved the beard so he doesn't look like a homeless guy that's sleeping in a tent under a bridge in downtown Austin anymore. Okay, but there's no guarantees paying these guys all that money. I mean, look, we can talk about hypothetically all the money Xavier Thomas got at Clemson. What kind of career did he have? What real incentive is out there if you're getting $13 million before you ever play a game? To me, that's not the model. It's unsustainable. And quite frankly, if Jimbo Fisher doesn't start winning, those oil and gas guys at Texas A&M, they are not going to keep stocking a collective with $23 million a year for him to go and get recruits that decide to smoke blunts in opposing locker rooms before the game starts, like they did at South Carolina last year. But you have got to have NIL to compete in the Southeastern Conference. You've got to have money for big-time prospects. Okay, you have got to have an avenue available to you like Park Avenue, which can go and get national recruits like Nicholas Harbor a national shoe contract for track, like Spencer Rattler, who is a nationally marketable guy. Park Avenue is instrumental for that, particularly over the next 3 to 4 years. If you're Shane Beamer and the national recruits that you plan on bringing in and are bringing in, to retain those guys, you're going to have to get them national and regional deals. Okay, but then there's also going to have to be NIL money for guys like DQ Smith and Nick Emanwari, and maybe this year a guy like Judge Collier and Jalen Kilgore, who you probably didn't have to devote a ton of money to, but other schools are going to come after them because you made great evaluations, just like you did Gilbert Edmond. He went to Florida State. Okay, I can kind of get, Jaheim Bell because he was lied to and misled by the previous offensive coordinator. I just think there was too much water under the bridge for his family to take it. All right, but you're going to have to be able to retain your own players. So you're going to have NIL money for that. Then you're going to have to be able to go out and supplement and supplant losses, graduations, injuries, etc., with guys from the transfer portal. South Carolina was not able to do what they wanted to do in the transfer portal this season, whether it's in the January portal period or the spring portal period, because of the limitations in NIL money. It's just a fact. There were several guys that if South Carolina could have made the same offer as other schools, and I'm not talking about Southern Cal or Ohio State or Texas A&M or Florida, South Carolina could have gotten some guys that would have been impact players on this roster. Then there's basketball, both men's and women's. There's baseball, which Carolina Rise does a tremendous job with baseball, and you really don't need as much money. I mean, there are some guys that, again, to me, it's unsustainable to give one player $250,000 to come and play baseball for you. It's just not worth it. A target that I knew was planning on enrolling at South Carolina weeks before he entered the transfer portal was offered $250,000 by another school to go and play baseball for them. I say, God love him. Just like Anissa Morrow, all the money that LSU promised her, God bless her. Go get that money. South Carolina women's basketball still has the most talented roster in the country, in my opinion. And so I'm encouraging all of you that are listening, that are watching live, that will hear this on Spotify. If you want the Gamecocks to win, if you want the Gamecocks to be competitive in the Southeastern Conference, to compete not just for 8 wins in the Gator Bowl or the Citrus Bowl, but for conference championships, to get to 9 wins, to 10 wins, to 11 wins like Steve Spurrier did, Okay, I can tell you right now, if the present landscape had been in place from 2010 to 2013, South Carolina, and let's go back to like 2008, when all of those guys started committing to South Carolina and choosing South Carolina. If the current NIL marketplace was in effect then, South Carolina doesn't get all those guys. Not even all of the in-state guys. I mean, look, let's face it, Clemson, New Spring, Church, okay, they don't have a problem dropping a bag. South Carolina has got to become more competitive in the NIL space. And look, I'm not talking about all of us out there that are 1801 members for Carolina Rise, and you give your 18 or 20 or 30 or $50 a month, or you give a one-time donation of $500. Okay, we need to mobilize an army. Okay, the Garnet Army, the Carolina Rise Army, of at least 1,000 to 2,000 to 3,000 more people that can just give $18 or $20 a month. We've got to have that to be competitive. But we've also got to have guys that are in position to be able to give $1,000 a month, $5,000 a month, one-time gifts of $10,000, $50,000, $100,000. Yes, $1 million, $500,000. Guys that can pledge to give that much money for 5 years in a row. NIL is not going away. It's just not. And I'm not trying to paint a picture of doom and gloom, but when you lose a guy who's committed to you because he's getting a bag that ain't $1 million, that ain't even six figures, and you don't have the money in the collectives, that's a problem. I love this recruiting class, but I would love it more if there were at least 3 defensive linemen and 1 more big-time wide receiver in the class. I would have loved this team if there would have been a couple of high-profile defensive end prospects that South Carolina was able to go get. I would love this team if South Carolina was able to go and get 2 big-time running backs to come in and compete for the starting job. Now, I'm not saying anything bad about Mario Anderson or anybody else, but I don't know of anybody that believes there's a guy down there right now that's going to be able to get 20 carries or going to be able to take 20 carries a game over the course of the season. You'll have to scheme around it. Hey, I love DJ Braswell. I think DeKirian Joyner could definitely be a guy that embraces this role just like he's embraced every other role since he's been at South Carolina, and have a great season. I'm hoping Mario Anderson surprises me and is a guy that can get 10 or 15 carries a game. You know, I do think Juju McDowell, you've got to use him very wisely. You've got to get him out in space, like Dowell Loggins talked about, with playmakers. I also don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that a guy like Xavier Legette and Juice Wells wind up taking some carries. It is what it is because South Carolina was not able to get it done in the NIL space because, quite frankly, South Carolina was reactive instead of proactive. I've been saying it for over a year now. I'm saying it to everybody that will listen. If you love the Gamecocks and you want to see the Gamecocks win, get 5 of your friends to go to carolinarise.com and join the 1801 club. If you currently are not a member of Carolina Rise, can you spare $18.01 a month, $20 a month, $25 a month? Every bit matters. All right, I'm going to get off of my soapbox and say that tomorrow's pod will be my way too early breakdown of the 2 deep at South Carolina entering fall camp. I forgot to mention South Carolina's representatives at SEC Media Days next week will be Spencer Rattler, which Shane Beamer promised if Rattler came back, he would be. Kai Kroger, who I picked last week on our pod with the now vacationing Hale McGranahan as a wild card guy that could be invited, and Tonka Hemingway, who I felt like would be the guy to represent the defense. All right. Last thing on recruiting, upcoming announcements. Keelan Adams announces tomorrow. I anticipate that will be Virginia Tech. Liam Andrews, 4-star top 100 defensive lineman, expected to announce this week for Penn State. I think Braylon Russell, the 4-star running back from Arkansas, he will announce on the 14th. I do not anticipate that being the Gamecocks. Jonathan Paylor announcing on the 28th. I do expect that to be the Gamecocks. I think Malcolm Ziegler is announcing maybe on the 20th or the 21st. According to the guys at GamecockCentral.com, South Carolina could be more of a factor there than a lot of people realize. Daniel Hill and Dylan Stewart could announce this month, at the end of the month as well. An intriguing athlete named Zamarian Lang out of Palmetto, Florida. He's transferring to Sarasota Riverview for his senior season. 6'3", 170, a wide receiver DB. This is a name to track for South Carolina. And then on August the 5th, Jalewis Solomon, who Dante Reno mentioned, probably the number 1 corner on the board for Torian Gray. This is a battle with FSU. He is expected to be at that cookout on July the 28th. Then he's announcing a week later that's a chance for Shane Beamer and Torian Gray and Clayton White to close the deal there. And then we'll see what happens. But Dante Reno kind of a little foreshadowing says it's going to be a great July and August for the Gamecocks, for this class, and I am definitely all about that. So until tomorrow, on Friday, I'm going to try to have Ben Briner on the pod. I do have baseball the rest of the week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So the pods will probably be shorter. That will be the last week of summer baseball for me. Had a fantastic vacation. I began my vacation after I got to South Carolina by attending my good friend Brad Lawing's memorial service. Talked about that on the pod. Got to take my family to see the Atlanta Braves, which has been my favorite. The Braves were my first team, even before the Gamecocks, because my dad loved baseball. We went to baseball as a family. I was an only child growing up, me, my mom, and dad, to Fulton County Stadium to see the Pittsburgh Pirates and Roberto Clemente, to see Bob Gibson with the St. Louis Cardinals, to see Willie Mays with the New York Mets, to see the Big Red Machine, to see them all. And it was a great experience to be able to take Addison to her first Atlanta Braves game, to see Ronald Acuna Jr. I got her in to watch him play a little bit and told her about him before we went to the game. We sat in the right field stands right next to the chop house. And bottom of the first, Ronald Acuna against the Minnesota Twins hit the first pitch about 420 feet for a home run. Then in the top of the second, he robbed a guy of a home run. And then the bottom of the second, I don't know how fast the exit velo was on the second one, but he absolutely crushed one down the left field line that was inside the foul pole for his second home run. The Braves set or tied a franchise record for 5 home runs in the first 2 innings. Acuna hit one. Riley absolutely crushed one. Murphy hit one. And then in the top of the or bottom of the second, Michael Harris hit one in the chop house, and then Acuna hit the 5th. And so that was a great experience, and one that I'll treasure forever, and hopefully we'll be able to make that a yearly pilgrimage to watch the Braves. Truist Park, unbelievable. Addison and I spent about 30 minutes before the game walking back behind home plate to the Hall of Fame Museum. The Braves have built there with the great Hank Aaron, my sports hero growing up, as the centerpiece. Just a phenomenal display there of all the great Braves, the different jerseys, the Hall of Famers, the Silver Sluggers, the Rookies of the Year, the MVPs, the Golden Gloves. Just a tremendous experience that I will never forget, and I hope Addison won't forget either. So that is going to do it for today's Gamecock Pod Live. Again, special thanks to my guy, Dante Reno, for being so gracious with his time. What an amazing young man he is. Can't wait to catch back up with him again during the season. And we're 51 days away from the return of Carolina football. So until tonight on the Garnet and Black Town Hall, which will be open for all patrons tonight, this is Keith Allsep saying God bless, go Gamecocks, and I will look forward to seeing all of you again very soon. Go Cox, I'm out of here.